So you want to know how to make a boatload of money while traveling the world. Is it even possible? Is it all just an Instagram fantasy? In this video, I'm going to clearly lay out how many people make a fantastic living while traveling as digital nomads. Okay, first of all, who am I? My name is Mike, and I've been a digital nomad for the better part of a decade. I'm a lawyer by trade, but I've built several businesses to multi-million-dollar valuations, all while living and traveling as a digital nomad. Along my journey, I've met many people from many different walks of life, with different jobs, different levels of earning, and different travel budgets. So I'm gonna give you the info directly from the source, or maybe one step removed because I'm telling you. So to start, the idea that all digital nomads are freelancing hippies really kind of annoys me because it's simply not true. Now, I'll definitely say that there are freelancing hippies that are digital nomads, great people to hang out with, but to say all of us are like that is like saying all fruits are only Granny Smith apples. It's just not true. And this stigma particularly annoys me because I know that there are so many people who could be digital nomads, want to explore the world, but don't because they don't think they fit into the freelancing framework. So on to today's topic. What do people actually do to make money while they're traveling the world? As I kind of alluded to before, I have met tons of digital nomads, and many of them don't remotely do what you think they do. See what I did there with remotely? If you went online and you asked ChatGPT what jobs digital nomads do, you're gonna get a pretty standard fare. Freelance writing, virtual assistant, graphic design, software development, translation services, and online teaching. While all of these jobs are great and super rewarding professions in and of themselves, there are so many more things that digital nomads are doing. And yes, before we get started with the examples of the other professions, there are trust fund kids out here who are just posting on Instagram and making it seem like they're digital nomads. Those are not the people that we're talking about in this video. As I've traveled, I've met digital nomads with all kinds of experience. I've met lawyers, consultants, tech executives, salespeople, marketing executives, paralegals, entrepreneurs, geotechnical engineers, data specialists, government contractors, direct government employees, people who work in HR, accountants, project managers, journalists, coders and app developers, actors, models, bankers. I even met a guy who was starting his own bank. I went and I actually looked him up. He was 100% legit. I myself have worked as a lawyer while being a digital nomad. I've held leadership positions in a tech startup while traveling as a digital nomad. And I've started, managed, and grown an advertising agency, all while traveling as a digital nomad. So the idea that digital nomads are limited to just doing freelance jobs is totally false. There are people working for Fortune 500 companies, business owners, employees, and everything in between, all embracing this location-independent lifestyle. They're all very serious about what they do, and they all work just as hard, if not harder, than their colleagues that stay in the same city. Does that mean that from time to time, we have to interrupt our travel schedule to fly back and take care of something for work? Absolutely. I've had to fly from Paris to Seattle for meetings. I've had to fly from Costa Rica to Las Vegas for work, and I've had to fly from Greece all the way to Montana for work. My job didn't care where I was. I just needed to be somewhere at a specific date and time, and I made sure I was there. But to me, the extra hours in the air were so worth it, because when I was done with my work trip, I got to go right back to my adventure. Just so you can better understand the variability of careers people have, let me tell you about a few of my friends. I'm gonna change their names for privacy. When I was in Costa Rica, I met this guy, let's call him Tom. Tom was sitting at his shop, eating a smoothie bowl, wearing flip-flops, a decent shirt with a collar, and board shorts. He had clearly just been surfing, combed his hair, and sat back down for work. Me and Tom got to talking and eventually became good friends. A few days after meeting, I wound up chatting with him and found out that he works for one of the most prestigious private equity firms in the world. He was easily clearing at least $500,000 in base salary every year, but he was doing everything while traveling the world. At one point, I asked him what he did. I said, man, that's a high-powered job. And he told me the same thing I'm telling you guys. He said, all of my meetings are on Zoom anyway. Occasionally I have to fly in for a few meetings, but then I just fly right back. 99% of his job was done on the computer. So as long as he had fast internet, he was able to do his job from pretty much anywhere. Another one of my friends oversaw an entire product development team for one of the ride-sharing apps. He managed a team of like 45 people. Now he was working California time, so every day at 9 a.m. West Coast, he would sign in, get to work, use a virtual background, and my friend traveled the world for a year plus. He committed to making sure that he did his job well, and every few months, he would go back for a few days and touch base in person with his main team. Yet another one of my friends implemented HR software in some of the biggest companies in the world. He would sit next to me in the house, Or he would go in a pod in the co-working space and he would have meetings back to back to back to back every day, just the same as if he was in the office. The main difference was during lunch, we would go surfing for an hour instead of going down to the corner deli in New York. Now, he primarily worked East Coast hours, so there was virtually no change for him when we went down to Rio for Carnival, or when we were in Tulum for New Year's, or when we were actually learning to surf in Costa Rica. The time zones pretty much lined up, so maybe he was an hour earlier or later, but for the vast majority, there was no difference in his work life. Then when we went to Europe for the summer, we got to start our days at 3 p.m. It was amazing. Every night we could stay out as late as we wanted because we didn't have to worry about being up on time for work. We had all of the mornings to ourselves. We got to go out, see the city, do activities, and then we would either have late dinners or take our dinner during our lunch hour. Everything aligned perfectly. Most of the time, I don't even think his team knew where he was, but he got his work done. Yet another one of my friends is a semi-renowned journalist, and she was able to work from pretty much anywhere in the world she wanted. She may have had the most flexibility out of all of us. While it might not have been feasible for us in our current roles to go to Asia due to the time change, she actually could. And yes, of course I have friends that are freelancers. They're amazing people and they do amazing work. The one thing that's true of all of my friends that I've met while traveling is that they are crushing it in their job, whatever that selected field may be. And there's a few things that are consistent throughout just about all of them. They've dedicated themselves to making sure that they were good at their job, as you would even if you were stationary. They show up on time, they get their work done, and they enjoy what they do. That's why I think so many of them are really, really crushing it in life. The main difference between them, me, and most people who stay in the same city all the time is when we close our laptop at the end of the day or close our laptop at the end of the week, instead of going to the same bar that we normally go to or going to do the same activity in the same city, we're going to explore something new. And if you find a city that you like to stay in, go for it, it's great. All I'm saying is you can become wildly wealthy while traveling the world. So how do you get rich while traveling the world? Well, the answer is probably how you would get rich if you stayed in the same place. There are plenty of coaches and gurus out there who are much more qualified than I am to tell you how to get rich. I mean, you're on YouTube, you can go find some of them. I'm just here to tell you that you can certainly do it while exploring the world and traveling. Pick something you're good at, make sure there's demand for what you're doing, and just keep delivering value. Eventually the money will come. The reality is, in the modern era, being on the other side of a wall is the same as being on the other side of the world. So if you're considering becoming a digital nomad, my advice to you is just jump and try it. If you're curious about how to do it, just stay tuned to this channel. We're coming out with new videos about how to be a digital nomad and live a location-independent lifestyle all the time. But the fact is, you can be a digital nomad with just about any kind of job. So stop using your job as an excuse not to get started. Unless you're a heart surgeon, in which case you should probably stay home and save people's lives.